You know, every single day, billions of people use its products. We search, we watch videos, we navigate our world, but behind all those familiar logos is one of the most powerful and valuable companies on Earth, Alphabet. Today, we're going deep, really deep, to figure out what every investor needs to know about this absolute tech giant. So get this, just a couple of months back, in September of 2025, Alphabet, Google's parent company, officially walked into the ultra-exclusive $3 trillion club. That is a mind-boggling valuation that puts it right up there with names like Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. But you know, behind that giant number is a sprawling, complex global company. It is so much more than just a search engine. And today, we're going to pull back that curtain and break down every single piece for you, from the parts that make all the money to the wild, futuristic bets they're making. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with how Google became Alphabet in the first place. Then we'll take a look under the hood to see all the moving parts. We'll solve that confusing GOOG versus Google stock question, peek into the future with their biggest bets and risks, and then we'll wrap it all up with a handy little checklist for you. First up, to really get a handle on what this company is today, we have to rewind the clock to 2015. This was a huge year. It's when Google, a company we all thought we knew, went through this massive change that completely reshaped its future. So the whole story starts in a garage, right, back in 1998. And for 17 years, Google was just Google. But it grew from a simple search engine into this beast, with projects in self-driving cars, life sciences, you name it. And by 2015, trying to keep all of that under one roof was getting, well, messy. It was confusing for investors. The solution? This radical restructure into Alphabet. And that move right there is what paved the way for it to hit that $3 trillion mark this year. The whole idea was to turn Google into what's called a holding company, basically a parent that owns a whole collection of other businesses. Now, what's really cool is where they got the idea. They were directly inspired by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. The goal was to make the main Google business, the internet stuff, cleaner and more accountable, while giving all those other ambitious projects the freedom to run on their own. Co-founder Larry Page said the name represented a collection of businesses, kind of like how the alphabet is a collection of letters. And there's a pretty clever pun in there, too. Alphabet, because alpha is an investment term for beating the market. So this new structure was all about letting each letter in the alphabet family really shine. Okay, so what exactly is in this collection of companies? What are the engines that print the money? And what are those ambitious moonshots that could be the next big thing? Let's follow the money first. As of right now, a whopping 78% of Alphabet's revenue still comes from advertising. This is the engine room that powers absolutely everything else. Now, that number has come down a bit from 86% back in 2017, but it just goes to show you how vital that ad business really is. The other 22%? That's coming from exciting, fast-growing areas like Google Cloud and hardware. So the original Google is now technically a subsidiary of Alphabet, but come on, it's the big one. It's home to all the internet titans you use constantly. Search, which is still the king of ads. YouTube, just a massive media powerhouse. The super fast-growing Google Cloud, the Android ecosystem on billions of phones, and even hardware like the Pixel phones and Nest devices. And then you've got the other side of the coin, other bets. That's the official name for Alphabet's portfolio of high-risk, super high-reward projects. These are the true moonshots. This is where you find Waymo, a leader in self-driving cars, Verily and Calico, which are tackling big problems in health and aging, Wing with its delivery drones, and Isomorphic Labs, which is using AI to find new medicines. Yeah, these lose money now, but the idea is that one of them could one day be as big as Google itself. Okay, now for anybody thinking about investing in Alphabet, there's this really unique and frankly kind of confusing question you have to deal with right away. Do you buy the stock ticker GOOGG or do you buy GOOGL? Alphabet uses something called a dual-class share structure. And what that means is, believe it or not all shares are created equal. It's a clever system that lets founders and insiders raise a ton of money from the public without giving up control over where the company is headed. So this is the most important part right here. There are actually 3 classes of shares. Class A, which trades as GOOGL, gets you 1 vote per share. Class C, which trades as GOOG, gets you 0 votes. And then there's the secret sauce, the private Class B shares held by the founders. Each one of those comes with a powerful 10 votes. And that, right there, is the whole ballgame. Because founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin own most of those super voting Class B shares, they control over half of the shareholder votes, even though they only own about 9% of the company's stock. It basically means they have the final say on any big decision. So this leads to the big question, right? If the founders can never be outvoted, is there any real reason to own the Class A shares that have voting rights? Does your vote actually matter at all? Well, for most active traders, the answer is probably no. They tend to prefer Class C or GOOG because it usually has about 10 to 15% more trading volume, which means it's a little easier and cheaper to get in and out of. But for long-term investors, especially those who care about ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance issues, the voting rights that come with Google L offer a way to make your voice heard, even if it's just symbolic. As one analyst put it perfectly, your single vote isn't going to change who's on the board. But when you get a lot of shareholders voting together on things like AI ethics or executive pay, that sends a really powerful message to the people in charge. It can actually pressure them to make changes. Okay, we've got the structure down. Now let's look ahead. What are the huge opportunities that could fuel Alphabet's next decade of growth? And maybe more importantly, what are the big risks that investors need to be watching out for? The future for Alphabet is really built on a few key things. First and foremost, artificial intelligence. With their Gemini models and the DeepMind Research Lab, they are right at the bleeding edge of the AI revolution. Second is Google Cloud, which is in this epic battle with Amazon and Microsoft. And then, of course, you've got the huge long-term potential from other bets, like Waymo. They're even pushing the limits of computing itself with investments in things like quantum computing. But it is definitely not a clear path forward. The single biggest risk is regulatory pressure. Alphabet is staring down major antitrust lawsuits in both the US and Europe over its power in search and ads. Plus, that ad business can take a hit when the economy slows down. And finally, the competition they face in both cloud and AI is just absolutely ferocious. All right, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's boil all of this down into a simple 4-point checklist for anyone thinking about Alphabet in 2025. Number 1, remember that ads are the profit engine. That's what pays for everything else, period. Number 2, the future growth story is all about cloud and AI. That's where you have to look. Number 3, know what you're buying. Google for liquidity, Google L if you want to stay in governance. And finally, number 4, always keep an eye on the headwinds, especially anything related to regulation. And that brings us to the final, really fascinating question about this company. Is it a stable, mature tech giant built on a powerful monopoly? Or is it more like a high-risk venture capital fund making wild bets on the future? Well, the truth is, it's both. And understanding that split personality is the real key to understanding Alphabet.